I'm often asked, what is my why? Why do I choose to do work in research and treatment of addiction, an area that sees so much pain, so much suffering, and so much tragedy? Great question. 34 years ago, I practiced pain management in a rural area. The motto was, try this, try that approach to pain meds. I saw people becoming dependent. 20 years later, I'm practicing in a metropolitan area. Same model is used, try this, try that approach to pain meds. And I'm seeing people become addicted at a faster rate. Had those results been good, I would never be here before you today. The second level to my why gets more personal and much deeper. I married an alcoholic, actually a man who had several addictions. We had a child together. While I could manage walking on eggshells, not knowing who was showing up that day or that hour, I was a parent. I was responsible. I was the keeper of the family tree. A year after my daughter was born, we found out that my husband was adopted. I needed answers. I needed to know the why. I needed to know why we weren't using technology to advance this area of healthcare as well. So I ask you to fast forward with me and consider the connotation of being armed with the facts of your physiology as a youth. Would you make different decisions knowing you had a genetic propensity towards addiction? Not something your parent told you, but what a doctor identified in your DNA, telling you you simply don't have the wiggle room to try it even just once.
Welcome back to Life's Deceit's podcast with me, your girl, Jen Simpson. I hope that you guys are having an amazing day, week, whatever day it is, whatever time zone you are in. Welcome to the podcast, and thank you for listening, and welcome to my new subscribers, my new listeners. I hope you are enjoying the content. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Evelyn Higgins. She is an expert in addiction and mental health. With over 30 years of experience, Dr. Higgins combines her background in epidemiology and Holocaust medicine. She is here today to explain to us how DNA ties into generational trauma and addiction, and how the sciences of our DNAs helps to shape the things that we go through in life, our experiences, our trauma, and how we react to certain things. She helps people break free from the chains of trauma, addiction, and mental health challenges. She has chosen this career. She has chosen her path. She has chosen her purpose to not only become a doctor, but be a doctor that drives transformation. She drives change, and she educates people on their DNA and how it shapes the people that we become and our environments. She's a graduate of the State University of New York, and with advanced studies at Harvard Medical School. She has not only graduated from New York University, but she decided to advance her knowledge so that she can help people in the areas where we were lacking, and that was mental health and addiction. We judge people that are going through mental health and addiction. And she has decided that she's going to be that person that stands in the gaps. She's dedicated her life to empowering individuals through her initiative approach to wellness. She has chosen that it is her calling to help people to really understand what mental health is and what addiction is, without the labels, without the tags, without the judgment, without the shame. As the host of a nationally syndicated radio show and a passionate speaker, Dr. Higgins shares her insights on healing and resilience. She shares her personal experiences that she went through in her own life that helped to shape her journey and her purpose. She guides countless of other people on their own journey to recovery and self-discovery through her practices, through her heart, through her own experiences. So, guys, I would like you to sit back, relax, get comfortable. Get your pillow. I have my little pillow here. Grab a drink, grab your favorite snack, and get ready to be inspired by Dr. Higgins. Listen to her transformative insights, her transformative experience, her transformative knowledge, her resources that we did not know that we have access to, and what we can not only do for ourselves, but our loved ones and people in our lives that we know that may be struggling with addiction of any form. It could be sex, it could be alcohol, it could be some type of substance. It could be an addiction where you are attached to people and certain things and environments, but you are struggling to break out of, or you know somebody that's struggling to break out of. Join us in talking about mental health and how we deal with trauma. And I know people would like to say, well, no, not because my mother's like that means I have to be like that, or not because my father's like that means that I'm going to become like that. But let me tell you something. If one thing that I've learned recently is about DNA, and DNA doesn't lie. And I said it before, sometimes the qualities that our parents have or possess are transferred onto us unintentionally, and we are unaware of it until we find ourselves in certain situations and circumstances where we're like, hold on, my mom would have done that. My mom would have made that face. My dad would have reacted that way. So for me, I would talk about it, but I wasn't an alcoholic and I didn't have a substance abuse, but I would self-medicate. And that's also a part of generational and intergenerational trauma. Self-medicating yourself to silence the noise, to silence your situation, to not want to face what we have gone through, because facing it we find is more harder, but facing it is more easier. So when my grandma passed away, I went to alcohol, my favorite liquor, to help me sleep because I didn't want to think about it anymore. I didn't want to think about the regret of not being able to talk to her, not seeing her, not knowing that she was sick, and all these family problems that we had that we never had the opportunity to address. And now she's gone. So I would go to my cupboard, my beautiful cupboard, and find a bottle of something and take a sip of something just to self-medicate so I could go to sleep. And I picked that up from my dad because I realized that my dad self-medicated for so many years that he didn't realize that he grieved for so long. We talked about in the last episode, grieving, and how addiction, now we're going to tie into addiction and grieving, and how addiction can play a role in how we grieve. Because if you think about it, a lot of times, if you know somebody, think about somebody in your life who's lost somebody or went through something where they went through a divorce, a breakup, whatever it is. Something is no longer the way that it used to be. Things have changed, things are absent, and their life seems like it's turned upside down. The first thing that they turn to is something that will block out that feeling. Think about it for a minute. We all know somebody, even if it's not ourselves, because I've experienced it, so I know. And it's hard, it's very hard to face, but Dr. Evelyn Higgins, my beautiful guest, is about to break down these intergenerational traumas and how DNA and how science shapes it and how we can break away from it if we are able to identify it. Identify that it's a pattern, and what do we do to change it and transform our lives? So guys, help me in introducing my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful guest. Her soul is magnetic. She is beautiful, she's peaceful, and she is powerful. And she's about to transform my life and your life and continue to transform thousands of people's lives. So guys, without further ado, let's introduce Dr. Evelyn Higgins. Hello, Dr. Evelyn
Hello,
Higgins.
Jen.
How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, and I'm absolutely honored and blessed to have this opportunity to connect with you.
Oh, likewise. I'm looking forward to it.
And I know that the Women's Month ended, but in my books, it didn't end. It's all year round. I've been saying this is all year round. We're celebrating each other. We're uplifting each other. And I want to thank you for continuing to be such a phenomenal woman and all the work that you are doing, because it lets us know that, we have the space to do it as well.
Absolutely.
And we have a whole community behind us, and we're not alone in this journey and this fight. Breaking generational cycles, I call it a lifestyle. That's my theme this season.
I love
Breaking
it.
generational cycles is a lifestyle because it's a consistent thing we have to do. It's just like healing. Sometimes we think that we did the work and we're completely finished, but something happens, a situation that kind of like digs up something.
That is a great way to say it because it is a lifestyle. It's like if I'm talking to a patient, I'd say, I want you to start walking. Just do 20 minutes a day. That's all I'm asking you to do.
Mhm.
Breaking generational trauma is the exact same thing. Every day, something's going to show up. Every day, you have to reframe how you're going to play it out.
Yes. And it's so funny because when I was walking over here, I'm like to my son, help me for a second, just set this up and whatever. And I thought about it and I realized that you are a doctor, addiction. And, a lot of people believe that addiction's only drugs,
No,
and it's not.
no.
So as I was walking, I'm like, hold on, I was addicted to something. And I didn't realize that I got it from my dad until he got cancer.
Mm,
There was a point when my grandma passed away that I felt so empty. I felt so weak. I felt like my whole world was finished.
hmm.
I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. I didn't know how to move on. I didn't know how to confront my fears. I didn't know how to face myself.
Yeah.
And I went in the cupboard, and I'm not a drinker
Hmm.
at all, but I like the flavor of alcohol.
Hmm.
And I went in the cupboard, and I've never shared this story before in my life. So you have no idea how honored I am to really be connecting with you right now in this season in my life. Because
Oh.
I admitted to myself, I went to the cupboard, and for a whole month, I picked up the bottle.
Mm.
Whatever it was that was in the cupboard, I was just drinking. And I would drink it in the morning and I'll drink it in the night to help me go to sleep because I'm an overthinker. So I'll stay up all night and I'll be thinking till 4 o'clock in the morning, then wake up at 6 and then go to work.
Yep.
So I would
Yep.
have like a little bit of alcohol just to help me sleep.
Yep. 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 Yep.
And
And
for that,
I was
go
going to
ahead.
say, you think about what you were doing is your feelings, your emotions were so overwhelming, you wanted to stop feeling. You were self medicating and didn't even realize, hey, that's what I'm doing.
Right. So as I was walking over here, I was like, I was self-medicating. And
Yep.
here's the thing that we talk about generational things because people don't really understand. Breaking generational cycles is not just about trauma.
Right.
It's about our lifestyles, our
Right.
patterns, our routines. And my father loves alcohol. He loves rum,
Mm.
like Ray and nephew rum. Like he will drink that with just water.
Oh, he
And
was from then.
oh my God, he drank it for years.
Yeah.
So I remember when he came over for Christmas, I can't remember if it was 4 years ago or 5 years ago. And I noticed that he wasn't drinking and he always needs his Ray and nephew.
Hmm.
Ray and nephew and Guinness, which is a beer.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wasn't drinking, but he would always actually backtrack a little. When his mom died, well, went back home for her funeral and he was out of it. He drank Ray and nephew to the point where he fell downstairs. Like he just, and I realized that in that moment he was self-medicating, but I didn't realize it
Yep.
until he was at our house for a Christmas party and he wasn't drinking. I'm like, why isn't dad drinking? And he's like, no, man, I'm okay. I'm just under the weather. Not realizing that my dad had cancer and he didn't even know what he was about to face.
Uh,
And he was self-medicating when his mom died,
yeah.
made him so sick that he developed cancer and
Yeah.
he stopped drinking. And I realized that generational cycle was that I picked up a routine like my father. I picked
Exactly.
it and I was
Exactly.
like, oh my gosh, you
Yeah.
never realize it.
Right. No, you don't when you're in that moment. You really don't. It's not until after that you can put all the pieces together and say, wow, like your body responds doing what it needs to do in that moment.
Right.
And it's not until we get past that that say, is that healthy? Is that unhealthy? Or have someone trying to guide you through life because life is going to throw so many curveballs at us that we're just going to respond,
Yeah, we're just
you
gonna
know?
respond.
And when we talk about generational trauma, there's the emotional patterns, there's the lifestyle patterns. You were watching your dad, not even saying, hey, I'm watching my dad, and seeing how he deals with life. You're not even realizing that. You're just taking it in. So when you put yourself in a situation that's stressful, that's too many feelings, too many emotions that I don't want to feel right now, it's overwhelming. Let me go back to what I know. Well, I saw this, that seemed to work, right? And then on the physiological level, within our DNA, we pass these things down generationally. And we're just starting to put all the science into that and to say, hey, we knew it. Like we knew it. We were watching it unfold. But now the science and the research is saying, no, this actually happens. Physiologically, we pass down those things.
And I had an interview with somebody last week and I said the same thing. We pass down things unintentionally, not even
Right,
knowing.
right, right.
As much as we say, like, I grew up saying I wasn't going to be like, I love my mother to death,
Yep,
but I didn't want to become her.
right,
And I didn't want to have the same traits and qualities as her.
right.
And I find myself sometimes doing the same thing as her, not even knowing that it's
There
in
you
my
go.
DNA.
Yep, 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 exactly. And so many times people say, like, well, my mom died at 50, my dad died at 51. I'm going to die somewhere between 50 and 51. So who cares? Let me live recklessly and just do my thing. More than the genetic predisposition for whatever disease or condition that your parents died from is the habits that you take on of theirs, not even realizing, to the point of your mom. It's like, no, I'm never going to do that. I'm not going to be like her. Whoa, look at what I'm doing. It's in me. It's in me.
It's in me.
Yeah.
It's in me. And it's so funny you said that, because even the way that we cook, like
Yeah.
my background, my background is Jamaican.
Uh-huh.
So the way that, like, our food's yummy. Oh my gosh, it's
Yep.
delicious, right?
Yep.
But the way that they prepare it and cook it, it's not healthy. And we don't realize that
Right.
those things cause high cholesterol,
Yep.
so many other health conditions
Yep.
that we could prevent. We
Yep.
can learn a different way of cooking it and still
Yep.
be delicious
Yep.
and avoid passing away
Y-
at
uh,
50, 60, just like our family members have, our grandparents, our grandfathers down the line. There's so
Yeah.
many things that we don't realize.
Maybe that's something that you're supposed to do, Jen. Maybe you're supposed to do a cookbook of healthy Jamaican recipes. You can still bring in the Jamaican jerk, but how are we going to do little hacks that don't make us unhealthy as a result?
Right.
That might be for you.
And it's so funny. I changed the way I cooked in my house years ago.
Yeah.
And my family were kind of like, that doesn't look right. But they eat it and they're like, oh my gosh, this is good.
That's good.
The
Yeah.
ingredients and the flavor is still there. It's just how it's
Right.
done.
Right.
So, Dr. Evelyn Higgins, you have chosen to be a doctor in addiction and mental health.
Mhm.
And for my listeners who aren't familiar with you and are listening and want to get to know more about you as a person,
Sure.
I want to know where you're from. What do you
Originally born in New York. I currently live in Florida and spend a lot of time traveling around the world speaking. So I would love to consider myself a citizen of the world.
beautiful. And tell me about your childhood. What was it like?
I would say I had a really good childhood. I had because, and when both my parents are deceased, when my mom, I was caretaker for both of them in the end. And when I knew her time was very limited, I said, Mom, I had a childhood because of you. You allowed me to play. And that I can tell you, Jen, touched her. I could have bought her something. I could have whatever. That meant more because to her, being a mother was everything.
Right.
And saying, I got to have the life that I did because you let me be a kid. I got to play. And in play, that's where you develop your brain. That's where you develop skills. That's where you navigate life. How you're going to do it as an adult is how you're doing it as a kid.
How you doing as a kid? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I would say I had a really good childhood, and because of who my parents were and the freedoms, but yet still the parachute that they allowed for me, I couldn't have asked for more, I'd say. Doesn't mean everything was perfect, but
Yeah,
I've got to ask for more. Life is still life. There's a lot that I could have said, could have done without that,
yeah,
could have done without that. But you know what? When you look at it in the big picture, blessed.
yeah. And they allowed you to be a child
Yeah. Yeah.
and grow into your adulthood without having to feel forced to grow up too early.
Exactly.
And you said that that was better than giving her a gift. And I think people don't realize that
Yep.
material things don't mean much to our parents, but knowing that they did an amazing job and
Yep.
they did what they were supposed to do
Yep.
and more, and we understand what they did and
Yep.
we appreciate it, that
Yep.
means a whole lot.
Oh, it means everything. I'm getting goosebumps here now, Jen. I can feel my mom, I can feel it. And, what matters in life, and I say this a lot of times in different talks that I do, but people don't remember, like, you're like, oh, I need to leave this to this person. I need to give this to this person. What people remember about you is how you make them feel. It's not about the stuff. It's about when you think of that person, that smile that you just got on your face, Jen,
Yeah.
that's the goal for everybody. When they think about you, does that big smile come on their face? Do they say, wow, what a person that touched my heart and forever? Then you get to live. Your
Yeah.
legacy lives on forever, not with the stuff that's not going to last in 10 years, 20 years, whatever, at best.
Yeah. That is so true. And I always say that people misinterpret what legacy means, leaving a legacy. It's
Right.
your mark, it's your impression.
Yep, exactly. When you're leaving a legacy, it's not the stuff. It's the when that person thinks of you, what do you want them to remember? What lessons have you generationally passed down to them that make you a better you? That's the stuff that matters. That's the stuff that lasts.
That's the stuff that lasts and that's stuff that they can carry on and really pass on to
Yep,
their own children and generations.
yep.
Now
And
you
I was going to say this isn't even a Mother's Day podcast, but I think we could use it
yeah,
for some of that.
we could absolutely,
Yeah,
because you see mothers across the world, they're trying to teach their children different things, but there's social media. There's
yeah.
the glitz and the glamour, and there's the gifts.
That's not it. That's not it. I'm a mom and I'm now a grandma of identical twins who are 4 years old. And framing all this, like having these conversations with people that I do, really makes it every day, every time, like when we're done with this podcast, I'm going to go see them in a carnival. I'm going to meet them in a carnival. That's the stuff that matters. That's the moments when I'm no longer on the face of this earth. They'll still feel me.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that matters.
And they'll remember that you were always there supporting them.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, I said yesterday, there's nothing like a mother's love.
No.
We have disagreements with our moms. All the like fathers,
Sure.
there's a little bit hiccups there, whatever.
Yeah.
But moms, there's always going to be a little bit of disagreement because moms want the best for us and they
Yep.
think they always know what's right. And
Yep.
sometimes they want to coddle. And I do it sometimes. I want to coddle my kids, especially my son. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're 14, you're 6 foot. I want to cry because where did time go? I just want to coddle you. But I
Right.
still have to trust you that I gave you the right tools,
Yep. Yep.
the morals, the
Exactly.
heart, that
Yep.
you're going to make the right decision, that you're going to come to me for advice and guidance. And I
Yep.
have to trust that you're going to make the right one for yourselves.
Absolutely. When my daughter asked me, she's like, so mom, like, now that she has kids, she asks different kind of questions. She's like, what was your goal for me? I said, as a mom, I said, I wanted to give you the tools to navigate this world, that you could be dropped out of a helicopter anywhere in the world and know how to navigate life because you knew how to talk with people, interact with people, make your way, make mistakes and get back up and keep going. That I'm like, that would be that I did my job. Because as a parent, this is kind of sounding like it's my death, my last but as a parent, one day you won't be here, but you want to have all of those things that you passed on to say, you'll still feel me, I'll still be with you, and I've taught you everything of the person that I love most in this world, like you love your kids, is that you're going to be able to navigate this world. Life is a gift and it's beautiful, but that doesn't mean that everything is easy, simple, that there's not pain, that there's not suffering. That's all part of life, of the journey of it. And as a parent, you get to pass that on, saying, hey, through the things that they watch, how you navigate, through the lessons that you teach, it all matters.
You said you don't want it to sound like this is your last breath you're taking, but I go through the same thing all the time. I will sit there and I'll think about it and I'm like, did I tell him the right thing? Is he going to be able to survive when I leave this earth? Is he going to know how to get back up if
Yep.
things don't go your way?
Yep.
Are you going to understand that maybe it didn't go your way because there was a different route for you?
Right.
And continue to keep driving, keep pushing.
Right. And to trust, right? That there's a reason. I wanted that so hard. Today he wants to win his basketball game, no doubt, and I hope he does. Yeah. Right? I hope he does. But if he doesn't, that's the lesson today too. How do you continue the rest of your day? Do you say, we lost? What could I have done better? What's my lesson? And then leave that alone. Move on to the rest of your day. Because today is the only today.
Today's the only today.
Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that because it's the truth and it's a powerful message that people need to remember. Absolutely. Today is only today. So do your best today.
Right. Show up.
Show up.
Yep. Show up today.
You had a pretty good childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's very rare for some people.
Yeah.
And very uncommon.
Yep.
But with that childhood and the teachings that you developed, I want to know your career path, choosing to be an addiction and mental health doctor. Why did you choose that path?
So 36 years in practice on the professional side of things, 36 years in practice. I had been practicing in a really rural area, then went to an urban area, and I didn't see, and in the rural area, there were no tools. There was nothing for people that I was seeing with addiction. And as you said in the beginning of the podcast, it's not just alcohol. There's addictions. I mean, we call them process addictions: gambling, sex, porn, food, shopping, like all those things, not just alcohol, drugs, the things that we most commonly think of, and seeing no resources.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.
So I started doing more and more on the education to get the highest level that I could in addiction, to have tools for my patients. Then I moved to the urban area saying, okay, we're going to have a lot more tools. This is going to be great. Nothing changed. Nothing was there. Mm-hmm. That was professional. So it was kind of like, here's the box. I want the tools. Personally, I married a man who was an alcoholic. And I was seeing these behaviors in him, the mental health that creates the drinking. And he had actually other addictions as well. And now we have a child. A year after our child's born, we find out that my husband was adopted. And now I said, I know nothing of health history for my daughter. Like, I need to, and I'm seeing these behaviors in him. What do I need to know for her? So personally, this now became my thing. So interesting how life takes us on our journeys, right? Professionals like, no, I need all these things to know them for my patients because there's just nothing being offered. And now here I am in a personal situation, like I need to know everything I can possibly know. And that became my everything of learning more, to the point where we even have a patent on a lab that we do of looking at the different biomarkers that we're all made up of, so we can prevent so much, so we can optimize so much of what we have to work with. I did a TED talk. It's called understanding the biomarkers of addiction. And in that, I talk about my husband, and that in our genetics, we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. We all do. Some people think there's no weaknesses. We all have weaknesses
We
as
all
well
have
as
it.
strengths. Yeah. But it's knowing what are our weaknesses and how did they potentially affect us and what can we do about it. That's the stuff that matters. So that kind of changed the trajectory of my whole life. My husband wound up dying at 42 years old. We had divorced first, and a young life that, didn't need to end that way.
Isn't it interesting how our experiences and our situations shape our journey and who we decide to become and the career paths that we choose?
Yep. Yep, absolutely. And from if I had, I don't know, I'm 64, about to be 65. I don't know if that little magic 8 ball was in your childhood, Jen, but there was this 8 ball that you'd shake it and ask questions to, like when you're a kid, it's like, do I really need to do my homework?
Yeah.
Shake it. The magic 8 ball says, no, you don't. But, if I had a magic 8 ball, I'd say, oh, that would never happen in my life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a
But
lot of things that I'm like, that would have never happened to me.
Right.
So I feel like we go through things that we say we would never experience for a greater purpose.
Yes, for a reason, for a greater purpose. What and to the individual that needs to get it, because what are they going to do with it? Where are they going to take it? And to help the greater good and to help all of us. It's really, when you're in it, you'd never say, hey, pick me.
Yep. Don't pick me.
But after it, you're like, I get it.
Yeah. And I was the perfect person for it.
Yeah.
We don't ever see it that way when we're in it. And
No.
that's why I have this saying where I'm like, when you're going through things, allow yourself to go through every process.
Right.
Because when you allow yourself to go through the process, you actually get to look back at it and be like,
Whoa.
I enjoyed this. Whoa, like seriously.
Whoa.
That helped me to become the woman I am today and be able to go through things. Even with the fear, I'm able to be like, listen, I'm going to get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You would never willingly say, hey, bring it on. But after it, it's like, I did that. I got through that. Man, I can do anything. And that's the feelings that you want to have of like, it's not going to be easy, but you keep on getting through it and you will. And there's a reason at the end of it. The gift is going to show up.
Yeah, the gift is going to show up.
Yep.
So there's a term that I've recently just discovered myself, and it's epigenetics.
Yep.
And I would like you to define it for us and what role it plays in shaping behavioral health.
Beautiful. To me, Jen, epigenetics is the most exciting part of science that exists because it gives the power back to the individual. So you're born with your DNA. Here's your cards, play them out. You don't have a choice of what DNA you're getting. It's passed down. But now with epigenetics means that the expression of your genes can change. Whoa. So those things that you saw, I don't want to pick on your dad, but we saw with your dad, okay, that alcohol was his thing. That was his crutch. You do our lab test, we look at what your specific biomarkers are and say, hey, this is actually in your DNA too. We do not want to see this show up. So let's look at preventing this. How would it show up? You're like, well, I haven't seen it in my life. It's never been there because you haven't had the same stressors, which would then turn that gene on. Genes get turned on, genes get turned off. It's the environment that creates that change now. Example, 20-year-old girl, mom comes to us and says, for 19 years, I never saw this behavior in my kid. She is now 20 years old and it is a different person showing up. What's going on? Like, okay, let's look at those biomarkers. Let's see what's going on. Okay, you know what you're seeing, first off, I'd say between 19 and 20, tell me about her life. Oh, she went away to college. She's doing her own everything for the first time. She's doing school. She's trying to hold down a part-time job. She's eating whatever, because I'm not there saying, you got to eat better. You got to eat healthier. She's sleeping maybe because she's in college and trying to do all these things. And she's got entirely a new group of friends. I'm like, okay, her entire environment has changed. So those genes that we've identified, and we see it as we're looking at her labs, were always there. She never had those same stressors in her life to have that gene get turned on and now show up. That's powerful. That's powerful. To me, the perfect world is that this is done with someone early in their life, and we say, here's your blueprint. This is what you're made up of. Right? These are the things to be careful of. These are the things to not be involved in. We still all have free will. But it would be kind of like the BRCA gene that we now know about with breast cancer. Everybody should have that test done. So we know, is it something for me to be concerned about? You still make your choice. Is there something I should be concerned about, or I'm good to go and just still live a healthy lifestyle? This is the same thing. This is what you're made up of. This is your individual blueprint. We can prevent so much. We can optimize so much. That gives the power back to the individual.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. That was a great way to explain it. But also when you explain cancer, we do all these tests.
Mm-hmm.
To check if, these things are in our bloodline or family history. Cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, whatever the case may be. We'll go to the doctor, we'll get the test for these things. But taking the time to look at our DNA and the patterns and the things that our parents used to do.
Absolutely.
And figuring out why.
Yep.
Is really powerful because you take your power back.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah. So from the behavioral aspect and then the physiological aspect, like with the example of cancer, we're not in with our lab, we're not just looking at, and I say just but addiction, mental health, there's also the other parts of it. We're looking at, for example, inflammatory markers. So much of that has to do with cancer. We're looking at detoxification markers. We're looking at mitochondria, that which gives the cell power and energy. This is where cancer all comes from, where it originates. And then our lifestyle just says, hey, kick it in and let's go, run home.
Right. Our environment and lifestyle plays a role.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge role.
Yeah. And that's taking some really complicated science and hopefully dissecting it to where it's understandable. So it's useless to me. Science is useless information unless we can make it understandable and it can now be used. Or else it's like, hey, good job. I figured that out. But what does that matter? It doesn't help people.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I was reading up more about it after I like to research.
Yeah.
Everybody. So I was looking at it and I'm like, hold on. I always knew, like you said in the beginning, but it's until something really happens, you're like, okay, that
Right.
makes sense. So for me, when my dad had cancer, still battling it, but he started to go into this venting stage, and it was like it dawned on him, okay, oh my gosh, I might possibly die.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really live a life. I was just living.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't ever happy from my childhood.
Yeah.
I went through so much, and he doesn't see it as trauma, but I went through so much traumatic things
Right.
and situations, and I feel like people always treated me a certain way. And from he could remember, I think he said 11, 12 years old, he started smoking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
From the time that he was able to drink, he always drank rum.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he was always self-medicating
Yep.
to not feel that.
Yep.
But now when I hear him venting, and I'm very much like my dad, we're the same sign. Our birthdays are a day apart.
Oh, wow.
So so when I hear him talking about things, sometimes I'm like, hold on, I felt this way. I've always wondered why my good intentions, although people love me and they love my big heart and who I am, sometimes they twist it.
Yeah.
And I was trying to question why. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm too much like my father, and I need to go and dig deep and figure out, why do I feel like his DNA transferred onto me?
Yeah. Yeah. Intergenerational. Intergenerational
Intergenerational.
trauma is a real thing. It is a real thing. And I would even, I'm, speculating here, but even with the cancer aspect of your dad, I would bet that there's a lot of inflammatory markers that he had, that because of the traumas he experienced, you don't start smoking at 11 and drinking at, as soon as you can, unless there's a lot that you're trying to not feel, and trauma.
Mhm.
So now those markers are there. We bring in these lifestyle factors that are just going to take what we've got that's negative and throw gasoline on it and say, go to town, boom, show up. And that's exactly what happens. And intergenerational trauma is real. It is passed down. It changes epigenetically. The expression changes within that DNA and it gets passed down.
It's
So
like,
why do we see people doing the same things? It's like, yeah, birth sign, absolutely, that's a part of it. And it's like all these things, your environment, that's a part of it. But it's that DNA that is expressing itself the exact same way is showing up.
it's like a boiling pot,
Yeah,
or a child that's going to school and somebody just constantly keeps poking that child.
yeah,
You
yep,
keep poking, you keep bullying, and they're trying to hold it in. They're trying to keep it
yep,
together. Okay, I'm just gonna let it go because mom said, just let it roll off your back. And
yep,
finally, one day, all that stuff that they've been holding in towards this child just starts bubbling over. And it just,
yep,
whatever
ab-
reaction comes out, it's based off of all the stuff that they've been holding and harboring for so long. So
yep,
when I was reading it, I was comparing it to that, and I'm like, that's the same thing. To
yeah,
break it down in
exactly.
shorter terms for people,
Yeah.
that's like what it is.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. That's a great way to say it because it's there. Now it's just boiling and
Just
boiling and boiling because it's the perfect environment to have everything that's not going to happen right actually happen.
actually happen. And for those who don't understand intergenerational trauma, can you just break it down briefly?
Sure. So individuals born with their DNA, they go through their life, they experience a lot of traumas. The examples we were just talking about that word epigenetics, it's going to find the weakest links within your DNA and have it become you. Now, you create more people. That DNA that way is how they're showing up in the world. And then it just goes to the next generation and the next generation. So all of the things that happened to our ancestors before us actually are embedded within our DNA, not just the stories we tell. My grandma came from Ireland as a 16-year-old on a ship, had no clue of what she was getting herself into in the United States, and had a really hard life, and left Ireland because it was a really hard life. That was all within her DNA, right? So now she creates children and you see intergenerational traumas, and then we're created and you see it, and then you look at the other side, you look at your mom's side, and there's all those stories, and now you start to put together like, okay, I heard those stories, I see these behaviors, this is all in our DNA. And today, knowing that epigenetics allows us to make changes to that, to optimize that, we don't have to sit there in that pain and suffering the same way. That may be, saying this for the first time, that may be the gift that they give us to say, gave you all this, now you get to change it.
That is true.
Yeah.
And this morning I was talking about it, and I said to my partner said to me, I said this to him before, and now that he's saying it now, I'm like, are you kidding me? I've been saying this to you. He's like,
His light bulb went off.
right? I'm like, so now it decides to go off. I've been saying it for these many years. Come on
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah.
we said, you know, people should really just treat their parents better, because sometimes they just don't know any better, and
Yeah.
we are the ones that came up to teach them better. And I'm like, Wow, did you just come up with that on your own? Because I know I said that already to you. But I'm like, it's true.
Yeah,
Sometimes they didn't have the resources like we did.
yeah,
They didn't
no,
have the time. They were busy just trying to survive.
yeah. And
And
and I was going to say, even if it didn't look that way, they were offering you whatever love they had within them that they had to work with and the best that they knew how to do, even if it looked like they were trying to do everything opposite. They didn't know any better. And they were in their minds just probably like a ping pong game in a million places of how do I get through this? How do I navigate it? And at
that's
the
so
end, at the end of it, if for nothing else, even, and I've said this to people about trying to get them to understand before their parents are no longer on the face of the earth, like, you have the time right now to have the story end differently. That's powerful. Use that. Use that time, and it'll start out like a fight. Like, Evelyn, you don't know. You don't know. I'm like, okay, I'm hearing you. I hear everything you're saying. This is for you. This is for you to carry the story differently. Now is the time to be able to do that. It doesn't mean it was right. It means the story can change. And that's what we want to be at the end of this. Have the story change so it's the best story. It doesn't mean it was all good. It doesn't mean it was happy days and everybody was like, perfect family. It doesn't mean that, but the story can change.
the story can change. And if they're still alive or still present, you can
Yep,
change it with them. And you
exactly.
know, you said something, they don't always know better. And it's like a child.
Yeah,
So the other day, I tried to, like, listen in on my daughter's conversation. She's 10, and I
yeah,
like to monitor just in
yeah, yeah.
case,
That's good.
right?
That's
So
good.
you have to, right?
You have to.
Without them feeling like you don't trust them,
Right,
but
right.
just be around and like listen in a little bit.
Yep.
So her and her friends were talking, and two out of the four started arguing
Mm.
because one felt like the other one was yelling at her. And the other two goes, apologize. Just apologize to one of the girls. And she's like, I'm not apologizing because I didn't do anything wrong.
Mm.
So one of the girls said, well, even if you don't feel like you did anything wrong, still apologize. And she's like, nope, I'm not going to do it. And the other one goes silent and she's like, I'm not apologizing either. So I kid you not, these iPhones are so cool where they're all sharing each other's screens while they're on the phone. And I'm like, how are you doing that?
How do you do that?
How
Right.
do you do that? So they're like, share your screen. And the
Wow.
two that are upset with each other, they're showing their text message that they're sending back to each other explaining, I don't like to argue all the time and it hurts my feelings. And the other one's like, well, if you don't like to argue all the time, then why are you doing it?
Mhm.
So to say all of that is, I said to them, if you don't feel like apologizing in the moment because you don't feel like you did something wrong, that's okay.
Mhm.
We have to teach not even just our children, but people, that it's okay that if you don't feel like doing
Right,
something in the moment, is
right.
perfectly fine. Think about it, process it, and then
Yep,
you need to handle it. But it's
yep,
just like our parents. Sometimes they don't know what they did is wrong
right.
because that's the way that they were raised
Yep,
and that's all that they know.
yep,
So now that we have the tools, the resources, access to people, we can do better and also pull them along our journey.
absolutely,
So what
absolutely.
you said is so powerful. Although it's just words, it is a powerful thing when we do that.
Yep, yep. And the story can end differently, from the physiological level of, again, we all have weaknesses, identifying what those weaknesses are. Okay, let's change that. That's incredible. You change that physiology, it also makes someone think differently. It really does. If we're looking at like the mental health biomarkers that we look at, one of them, just to give an example, not too much science, it's called the GAD gene. Its responsibility is to convert a stimulant neurotransmitter called glutamic acid to a calming neurotransmitter called GABA. If we have an error in that coding, we never get to the calm. How many people do you know whose lives could change for the better drastically if they learned how to show up calmer? That one thing.
One thing.
And you see in families, it's like, we're picking on, moms and dads. Mom was crazy. Her mom was crazy. Her mom, and their sisters, they were all crazy. Blah, 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 blah. And that's the family get together. Who's crazy?
Yeah.
But you look at it, it's like, yeah, because it's in your DNA, but change it, right? Change it first, physiologically change it, because then you start to show up as a different person. Making those lifestyle choices starts to become easier because you're thinking differently. Yeah. It's a no-brainer.
No-brainer. It's like that missing ingredient in a recipe.
Correct. And now we have that. Science has brought us that opportunity, which is unbelievable.
Absolutely unbelievable. And the fact that we have access to it, that's even greater.
Yeah, that like the science has all been done. There's access to it. Now, because of my shout out is to you, Jen, because of shows that you do, brings this to people. That's the power of what we can do with the technology. This is the good side of it. So why don't we double down on the good side? Because there's enough that's not good. But let's use the good and run with it and help people. The first part of it is in educating them, which is what you do, and you have the conversations.
The ingredients.
Yeah.
What we do.
Yeah.
That's, you know what? I like to say sometimes there's a message first and we don't realize it. So I want to thank you for that, because it's a journey. And I seen somebody say yesterday, I joined these podcast groups, right? And just for visibility, and so people know that we're here.
Sure.
And we're not here to judge. So one girl said she's been doing this for, I think she said about 6 months. And she only has 2 to 3 listeners. And she wants to give up. And how do you get more listeners? And I sent her a direct message, and I'm like, listen, those 2 to 3 people that keep showing up, that's why you should keep showing up.
Yep.
Because they're pulling something from you.
Yep.
That's why. It's not about having 10,000 listeners.
Right.
Even if it's 2 people's lives that you change. Exactly. You did what you were supposed to do.
Yep.
That's why you keep showing up.
Exactly. You can check the box for today of like, did something good, because that's the grassroots, right, Jen? That's those 2 people, they are so, you now are their lifeline. They keep showing up. So they're having conversations with other people about what they're learning and what they're hearing. It's going to grow. Just hang in there. It is going to grow.
It's going to transfer. They're getting it. So eventually they're going to tell somebody else about what helped them that day when they were feeling down to nothing. And your name is going to come up. So keep showing up.
Yep. And that's what we can all do for each other, right? Nobody's life is easy. We're all, it's just different nuances to it. But we keep on saying, I got you back.
I got your back.
Yeah.
In your experience, how has generational cycles of trauma affected the treatment of addiction and mental health disorders?
Great question. Extremely well, because the example that I just gave about, we start out with addiction is such a difficult disease because it's a biological, a psychological, and a social disease. There are so many layers to it. Every addiction starts out with an underlying mental health condition. You're not trying to change your resting state by taking something from the outside and bringing it in for no reason. You don't even know why you're doing it. That's the self-medicating part. Is it anxiety? Is it depression? Is it ADD, ADHD? Is it OCD? Is it the long list of all the mental health conditions? It starts because you're trying to self-medicate that. Now we look at your unique physiology. That's the part that's been missing in addiction. We talk about it being biopsychosocial, but we weren't doing anything on the biological piece. Your unique biology. There's 8 billion people in the world with 8 billion different sets of DNA. Yet we treat everybody exactly the same. No wonder we don't get the results.
No wonder we don't get the results.
Exactly. So now the opportunity to look at everyone on a unique DNA level. This is who you are. So we have to treat you this way, not that way. Changes the game. And, had this been working, you and I would never be having this conversation because I wouldn't be doing the work that I do, because it would all be, the results are there. We don't have to dig deeper into this pile. It's working great. That's not the case. The results are horrible. And people are still being treated like with 1950 ways of diagnosing and treating, which is absolutely ridiculous when the technology has evolved, the science has evolved, but we haven't passed it on to this group because there's still a stigma of, you got yourself there, you can get yourself out. It's a disease. It's a disease. If somebody had diabetes, we wouldn't say to them, why are you so weak? Just don't eat that piece of cake and nothing's going to go wrong. We would never say that to them. If somebody had cardiovascular disease, we wouldn't say, why did you have the heart attack? We would never say that. But with mental health, with addiction, we think we can just turn it on and turn it off, and we can't. And we can't. And where does it come from? Your unique biology, your blueprint, what you're made up of, that gets passed down. The traumas in your life and the environment that you put yourself in. So we have to start with, what is your unique makeup? Now, once we have that, here's what we need to do specifically for you, personalized for you. Then work through the layers of the traumas. Everybody has traumas in their life. The big T's, I call them, the little T's. Every day, we've got little T's, hopefully not big T's every day. But it's then, what does that do to you? Because trauma is more than just a word to justify a negative experience. It changes our physiological makeup. It changes that DNA epigenetically.